It has been a long 128 days, guys. That's how long it's been since DC United last played a game. They got 3 points in epic fashion back in March, but I don't even know where to start today. I'm so excited to be back here, live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast, presented by Heineken, and all I can do is laugh, right? How are we?
Yeah.
It's insane.
It is truly insane. Like, I don't even think I have words for what just happened. Oh, my goodness.
I cannot remember the last time I was this excited over 1 point. But to watch those last 10 minutes and have that kind of a response from the team, I think everybody and their mother counted this team out, and they came through and have a point well to show for it, and let's go.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly did. The mood in here was very dire, and, you know, rightfully so. Like, to be down 2 goals at half and also a man down, it really looked like we were just gonna have to fight this one out and figure it out for the second game. And my mind is like blown. I'm shaking. I cannot believe that we came back and scored those 2 goals.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we don't do this show live during the game because it was bad in here. I think we started setting up the show very differently than normal, right? We were setting up during the second half. We had kind of a long eye on the screen. Super excited to see our good friend of the show, Kevin Paredes, get some quality minutes today.
Yep.
You know, that was one of the things really to watch, and just out of nowhere, this team came back. There's so much we have to talk about here. I guess let's start, from the very top. It was a goal in the 12th minute back in Ola for Toronto. And, I think you guys had a little bit of mixed emotions on that. To me, it was a great goal. Could the defending, I think, have been better? Absolutely. But we saw not long before that some of the highlights from some of the other goals that were scored in this tournament. And I think I said to you guys live, like, well, I'm glad we didn't give up the crap goal, right? I mean, it was a bit of a rocket. What were your guys' thoughts, down 1-0 in the 12th minute?
Yeah, to see Canola come through with that kind of a strike, he made it happen. He created the space. I would like the defenders to close it down more, but frankly, if you can create that kind of space at the top of the 18 and get a shot off, especially a shot as amazing as that, it was certainly frustrating because I really did feel like the first 10 minutes DC was creating some opportunities going forward, playing lots of long balls, really trying to stretch the field and get creative. But to have that goal happen and happen the way it did, it definitely changed the tenor of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you guys are definitely talking about it knowing that we have a point. Because, yeah, I think DC United started off the game a lot stronger than I thought that they were going to. We looked really good. There were some passes that were a little off, but I thought we looked really good. And then, James Lambert made a good point that turnover happened from a Bill Hamid free kick or a Bill Hamid goal kick. He turned it right over in the midfield. They came right back down our throats. I think the defenders did not step to the ball the way it should, but also it kind of looked like Bill started to go for the save and then looked like he might have thought that it was going wide and kind of stopped going to make the save. I don't know. He didn't put in the effort that I would have wanted to see from him. The defenders did not put in the effort that they needed to put in to block that goal. And I was severely disappointed that it happened. And then in classic DC United fashion, we couldn't really pick ourselves up after that goal, and a second one ends up happening.
Yeah. And I think that, we coming into this game, we looked at it and said that, hey, DC is a defensive first team. They're going to have that well drilled, and that's going to show up. And I think that may have actually come back to bite them, where a little bit of that crispness, knowing where people are going to be, having a better feel for what's going on. I do think that contributed to the goal. I don't put it on Bill. I don't think that he would have reached it even had he started leaping immediately. I do put it more on the defenders, but all credit to the Toronto forward for making that happen. And,
it was a good
and
goal.
Changing the game.
Yeah.
It was, and I think we all can kind of agree that right now, at least with the way that this team's set up, and it's only 3 games, even though it's been several months, right? They're not set up to possess the ball and attack persistently for an entire game. And when you give up that early goal, I think Michael Black made a joke early in the game of like, well, we made it past the 10-minute mark without conceding. And then, of course, lo and behold, 2 minutes later, we give up. And it changes the entire complexion of the game. And we kind of remarked here, it's like they're all getting run over in the midfield. I mean, after that goal went in, DC United couldn't possess. When they did, they went down one of the flanks. They it was a hopeful cross in. I mean, Kamara I think by halftime would have been frustrated with himself. He didn't have 2 goals, but they were 2 tough opportunities he had. And with the midfield getting run over, you had Junior Moreno pick up a yellow card in the 18th minute, which we were all like, wow, that's a stupid foul. And
Ridiculous.
It wasn't his only stupid foul of the day, but we'll get to that shortly. 44th minute, just before stoppage time, Akinola scores again for Toronto, and at that point, we're pretty much thinking that the game's over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Fred was doing. I mean, he just, I don't know, had a little mental lapse. He thought he had the ball. I think the pressure came faster than he thought. He kind of like went to grab the player, so he was almost like red card. Like if he'd gotten that foul down, I think that's a red card for him, because that would have definitely been denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. And they end up putting another one away, and it was just so frustrating because, again, you just kind of see the team deflate. And I mean, you're right, at that point we were like, well, this is a bummer, and like the worst had not yet happened.
Yeah, and this is a situation, like you were saying, Sam, we can look at it a lot more positively coming off a point, knowing how the final result comes out. But to have a goal like that, Fred gets beat. It's a tough move. It's, the player, again, credit to Toronto for creating the opportunity, and Akinola being there ready to put it in. Again, nothing Bill can do on a break like that. It's just an error, and that came back to bite us. Going down 2-0 in that kind of situation, in this kind of heat against a team of the quality of Toronto, you really did think that things were down and out.
Yeah, and it was just before the final whistle in the first half. Great opportunity for Kamara again. Couldn't quite get it done, and then what happened with Moreno getting his second yellow, and I think a lot of us thought it was really his third yellow, so he was fortunate.
It was
to
his
still
third or
been
fourth
out
or
there.
fifth yellow. Yeah, and I mean, I actually tweeted out. I made the comment that Bill or Ben should have subbed him out in the first half, which is very unlike Ben. And I know, John, you were like, no, I would have waited till halftime, but I mean, he made several other tackles. Like probably during one of those hydration breaks, Ben or the coaching staff was like, hey, Junior, like take it down, like take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Like stop going in so hard. But then he continued going in so hard. So I don't think it could have waited until halftime. I think he needed to be pulled off prior to halftime because he wasn't calming down. I don't know. And he's not usually a dirty player like that. So I don't know like what got in his mindset today, what was going through his head. But, it was really unfortunate to see, but not at all surprising.
And the tackles were hard tackles. I wouldn't necessarily say that he was a full-on dirty player for the play today, but it was
You're right.
It was certainly he was going in knowing there was going to be contact. He was playing like he didn't have a yellow card, and that's something that in a situation like this where you're already a little bit thin on your roster, you really can't be playing games once you have a yellow. He dodged an opportunity to get sent off a few minutes earlier, and then the tackle basically going through the body. He had to know as soon as he made that contact that a yellow card was going to be coming out, and he was going to be spending the second half, from the locker room.
Yeah, which makes that first yellow card all the more silly because, again, it's 18 minutes in. It was, like, pretty far from the box. Like, there was no reason to be committing a tackle like that early in the game in the situation we were in. And things happen. He gets sent off. We're down a man going into the half, down 2 goals. And, we were all pretty sad.
Yeah. We're live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. If you're just joining us, John Lee, Sam Kastner, Michael Black breaking down the game here. We're still in the first half, but we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about. We want to hear your thoughts as well. We're obviously down a man today, as many of you watching from home are probably streaming on your side computer at work or trying to work from home. Joshua couldn't join us today because of a work situation. So the best way to get in touch with us is to tweet us using the hashtag Tried and True DCU. And when we come back to what happened with Moreno, look, we were frustrated down 2-0 here in the room. I think Moreno was probably already frustrated. He wasn't playing terribly well. He was already on a yellow. The frustration boiled over. But Sam, we talked about it, and I think you're probably exactly right. Ben probably talked to him during one of the 2 hydration breaks we had in the first half and was like, dude, get it together. And he didn't. And I think hindsight being 2020, probably should have taken Moreno off earlier. I think Ben probably gave him more credit than he probably deserved today and left him out there. But I got to believe the intent was probably to bring him off at halftime and bring out Fisher, which ended up happening during the halftime break. Fisher came on for Kamara. And I think it was at that moment where the three of us looked at each other and were like, well,
That's it.
this one's over, and we're going to bring on Kevin Paredes soon, get him some quality minutes, and we'll get the young guys in and pack it up and try again. And
yeah, because Segura ended up moving up top, which I mean, yeah, I still don't understand. I mean, obviously it ended up working out. We got the point. I still don't really understand what the thought process of taking Kamara out is. And I mean, unless you're just kind of, because I don't know that there's a reason to park the bus at that point. You're already down 2 goals. You're down a man. Like, you might as well have some of your attacking, even if you're going to sit back a little more. You know, you want your natural forward on the field. So I still don't know.
You know, and a little later in the show, we're going to be trying to go live to Ben Olsen's post-game press conference. So hopefully we'll get some thoughts from him on how he did it. Because, you know, as we saw by the end of the game, the subs really did come through and got the result. So it's, you know, very easy to look back and say, oh, well, what were you thinking? But at the end of the day, we did get that point. I think everyone kind of, when you saw our really only true forward on the roster coming off at halftime, thinking, hey, you know, maybe we're just trying to, you know, sit in. You know, again, this is a regular season game. It adds to the standings. You don't want to, you know, ship 5 or 6 goals against you, but thank goodness it didn't go that way. And
yeah, I mean, then you see the subs, Gressel and Flores end up coming off, and Assad and Paredes come on, and, you know, we're like, all right, let's see the young kid get some minutes. He came on with, you know, really great energy. Obviously, we've had him on the show, big fans. We really want to see him go far. So it was good to see him. He did have, you know, a little half chance. He was sent down the wing. Toronto's keeper came out. It looked like he could almost get there and potentially get around him and chip it. So, you know, that was fun to see, you know, trying to pull those, like, good moments out of the game at that point. But it was good to see that.
One of the things that I think the three of us missed while we were setting up the show and mostly griping about the first half, Chris Aduiachim did come on for Joseph Moore in the 69th minute. So not only did Ben Olsen use 3 subs, he actually used all 5 today. So full credit to Benny for getting the team out there. We missed that. We were thinking, you know, late in the game when we needed to kill off a little bit of time, we could potentially use another sub, but that we did not have the 5th sub available at that point. But the one more negative we have to talk about before we get into the absolute insanity of the last 5 minutes of this game. Felipe should have been sent off.
He absolutely should have been sent off.
Yeah, you know, Felipe comes in, hard tackle. From the replay, you know, he's coming in with the studs to the other player's cleat ankle. He's been playing the man. He got a yellow card in the game. I was marking when it happened that probably what VAR said was, hey, you know, the referee saw it. He decided it was a yellow card. It was not a clear and obvious error. That, you know, the referee saw what happened and chose not to go ahead and recommend a red card. I don't know. For me, I very much expected to be down to 9 men to finish off what to that point had been a fairly disappointing morning for us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm glad as a DC United fan that he didn't get sent off, because I don't know if the end of the game would have gone like that. But just as, you know, I don't think he can be, you know, going in tackles like that. It was studs up, you know, and the announcers were also shocked. You know, they were saying, you know, any higher up and that's potentially, you know, broken leg, which you definitely don't want to see for the other team, no matter how sad you are about how your team's playing on the field. And
particularly for a player like Felipe, you know, we know he's got a long track record of putting in hard tackles and, you know, being most people's least favorite player, and I count myself among that for a long time. Since he's come to DC United, he's done everything right. He's been engaging with fans. I've been very impressed with what he's done, but it's still hard to get over some of his past tackles. And again, referees know these things.
Yeah.
You know, this is not the first time that our referee today has seen Felipe come in with a hard tackle. You want to see it refereed consistently all the way through. I'm shocked that he was able to finish out the game, but hey, that's how it worked, and it worked out in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, that was maybe the last real negative of the game for DC United, because you move forward a little bit.
Yeah, it's enough of that.
I think to the 80th minute, right? I just want to get into it. We needed to get
It was the 84th minute.
84th minute, okay.
And, you know, I'm watching the replay here, and it's really hard to tell.
Well, first of all, Higuain comes on. We haven't mentioned that yet. He does get subbed on, which we love to see. We've also had him on the show.
He came on in the 80th minute.
Yes, yeah. And while he was on the show, you know, we were very excited to talk to him about this player-coach role, but he was very clear that he is still a player, and he is still looking to make an impact on the field. And he...
if there was one thing he did not want to talk about, it was being a coach.
Yes,
absolutely.
And that
was so clear to us, right?
Yes, so it was, you know, so we all got really happy to see him on the field. You know, he can bring that leadership, close out the game. game. And at that point, I think we were like, all right, if we can just get one goal, you know, if we can just, even like a really good opportunity, we need a positive out of this game. We really need something to build off of going into the New England game. So if we can just get like one really solid opportunity, maybe sneak one in there, finish this out 2-1, we can regroup and figure it out.
Yeah, 84th minute, and I just found it here. We sent him off. All three of us sent him off, but it was Felipe with just a brilliant through ball, an awesome run by Pipa, and he chips the keeper with one of the better goals I've seen from the run of play for DC United in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was straight experience too. Like the fact that he had the wherewithal to, you know, like slow down and take that touch and to chip it, and he didn't chip it too high, you know, not too low so the keeper could still get it. That was absolutely a very experienced goal that he scored, and we just all went wild here.
Oh, and we can talk about his experience all day, but he's still got the legs. He had to run away from defenders, clearly onside, the ball's right through. He got the break.
110 degrees, 400% humidity. My man was booking.
He said, this is my opportunity, and he made it happen. And, you saw him, the reaction afterwards was not, oh, yeah, I scored. He was in the net, grabbing the ball, running back up. He was ready to go. He knew that he had 15 minutes to impact this game, and he did.
Yeah, and then, going forward, John's like, I mean, maybe we can get one more. And I was like, I don't know, man. You can't be selfish. As do I, but I was like, I don't know, you can be selfish at this point, but like, holy moly.
Yeah, and it was in stoppage time. I think there were 6 minutes of added time.
Because we had the 2 water breaks. So, yeah, we had a little bit more stoppage time than some of the other games have seen for the second half, which definitely lent itself in our favor.
Yeah, and if my math is correct, I believe this is DC United's 2020 leading scorer, Frederic Brillant, with a great header to equalize it, and we went nuts. I hope no one in the building here was on a work call at the time, because
we went wild. Yeah, I mean, that it was just amazing, and it's not something that I think that we're used to seeing from DC United. I think I mentioned that we don't always know how to pick ourselves up after going down. We don't always know how to really push forward. And even in games when, we have the run of play and we have everything going against us, sometimes teams will just get a little like counterattack and get a goal on us, and the whole team kind of deflates. And, this is almost DC United of old, seeing them just come back in the last seconds, grabbing and clawing and making sure that we have every opportunity to get that goal. And I love seeing it. I'm like, almost okay if we're giving up those early goals, if we're just going to continue fighting and we're going to continue believing and we're going to push forward and we're going to get a point out of a game that really seemed hopeless 45 minutes ago.
And you're completely right. To talk about the goal itself, a free kick coming in, won by Steve Birnbaum, one of our center backs, headed on to Frederic Brillant, the other center back up front. We've already pulled off our target striker at halftime. To have our 2 center defenders get up front and do what we know they can do, is get up and win balls. It's exactly what you look for. That header was amazing to see that get just beyond the keeper's reach, and all of a sudden it's 2-2, and I don't think anyone really saw that coming. Certainly the announcers didn't. The players were overjoyed, and I think you saw a little bit of the frustration from Toronto coming off after the game. But what like you said, an amazing way to gut it out and really count on the whole team to get production there.
Yeah, and one of the things I think we really have to talk about now, especially in that moment, I mean, MLS has billed this as a World Cup style tournament because it is, right? We're in groups. We're all in quarantine mode, right? And a game like that with that sort of momentum, they play again on Friday. I mean, it's massive. They were down a man. They took a lot of their attacking products off, and they come back. You steal a point. The vibes have got to be just incredible in that locker room right now. I mean, talk about a fight, and now it's what, they're second in the group, third in the group.
Second or third, we'll be tied because we'll have 1 point. I think, just going back to the very end of the game, we'd be remiss not to talk about Bill Hamid's save. I thought he gave himself a concussion on the post, diving for that one.
Yeah.
Definitely kept us in the game. And again, it's those little things that DC United, not always having the mentality to really see the games out. Even sometimes we get that goal back and then the other team just shoves another one down our throats because we're kind of celebrating. So I really love to see the whole team kind of come around. We're all screaming at the TV, like really excited. I can only imagine the adrenaline after playing a whole game in that heat. It's your first game back in 127 days. Like, the fact that, the whole team was able to defend and Bill came out with that really amazing save, it sealed it for us, because that would have been a heartbreak. It would have been like kind of deserved because of the whole game, but after, from the 80th minute on, it would have felt like a heartbreak. So I'm glad that we were able to see it through. And you're right, like this momentum carrying us into the game against New England, like it's going to be huge, because New England won their game, so we are going against someone who does have all their 3 points. So we really do need to get any type of result to be able to have a hope of going through the rest of the tournament.
Well, we asked for your reactions on Twitter using the hashtag Tried and True DCU, and we're getting a lot of gifs, which means it was a fun game at least. Jay Sommers has used one of my favorite gifs of Dwight Schrute, just arms up, total excitement. Stephen Hain would like to know how this happened. And Arun tweets in and said, he couldn't tune into the game because of work. Had to look at the goals, the handball denial by VAR. To sum it up, the game was salvaged by two Freds with just 10 men, and not bad for first game since restart, and some good vibes. Hoping all the players are safe from the virus. So we appreciate the interactions using the hashtag Tried and True DCU.
Yeah, we also have some comments on the YouTube, which is great. We have James Graham logging in. I don't know what time it is in England, so I don't know if you're happy, sad, whatever about this kickoff.
It's almost happy hour in England.
We love having
4:43, right?
Oh, all right, well, joining you here. And then we had Tundi say, like, what a great way to rescue 1 point, and I absolutely agree. I don't remember the last time I was this happy over 1 point, and maybe that's because there hasn't been soccer in so long.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like so much more than 1 point.
Yeah.
Especially in a setup like this where you've got a number of third place teams going through. Anytime you have an opportunity to not only get a point and keep another very good team in Toronto from taking a full 3 points, you've got to feel better about moving forward. Like you said, from the first half, we were very concerned about what this tournament was going to look like for DC United, but I think our reaction now is completely different, and I think the players in the locker room are going to feel the same way. Like, they know they can come through, even if it's only 10 minutes left in the game. They're going to have an opportunity because they keep working. It wasn't a question of Toronto, getting super lax. It was two amazing plays.
That's a good point.
And DC United capitalized.
And it's one of those things too. We've talked a lot on the show. I know Josh was not here today, but he'd probably be reminding us that he's still got he's still got Kamara scoring 20 goals on the season. I think he said at one point we might see them all in Disney World. And I think that's so important, right? Because this team has not figured out the attacking prowess yet. They haven't really put it together in the final third, and they're not scoring the great goals in the run of play, aside from the one from Pipa Higuain today. But you're absolutely right. You continue to fight, you get goals, and we talked about it a little bit on on our preview show. This game on paper was the most difficult game in the group. Yeah. And so if you guys would have told me coming into this, regardless of how the game goes and who we lose on cards and all that debacle, getting a point out of this game, sign me up. I mean, New England and Montreal aren't going to be easy games at all, but this is a huge point, and I think DC United have a clear way through to the knockout round after getting this point. And if you're taking nothing from today, you've got one of your starters definitely going to be out at least one game on red card suspension, if not more. We would be in a lot worse of a spot.
Yeah, and we are getting a lot of comments coming in too, just about the next two games that we have coming up. Josh saying that Montreal and New England, will be easier opponents, not easy. I wouldn't go as far to say easy, but definitely easier than what we expected Toronto to be. And James saying on our Twitter feed that he expects that the Montreal game will be the easiest. So if we can, again, sneak another point out of New England, get a win against Montreal, I mean, that would give us 5 points. But even, if things don't go our way against New England, if we can get that win against Montreal, 4 points should be enough to see us through this group.
Well, and we haven't talked much about it, but as everyone knows who's listening to this show, presumably Nashville SC and FC Dallas have both been taken out of the tournament due to a number of positive coronavirus tests. So first of all, best wishes to those teams, those players. Hopefully they can get healthy very soon and get home safely. But what that means for DC United and really for all the remaining teams is that we're no longer losing a third-place berth to Group A. All of the groups have 4 teams, so there's 4 third-place teams that are going to go through here, and I think that's just another boost here for the Black and Red. We've got a lot more to talk about on the show. We got a couple cool surprises today. Michael Black alluded to one a little bit earlier. We're going to go live to Ben Olsen's press conference here in just about 15 minutes or so whenever he's ready. But we are going to throw it to break right now because DC United's Claudia Pagan is going to join us live as well and break down life in the bubble. And I don't know exactly where she was when this game was happening today, but we're certainly going to find out. I'm sure she's just as excited as all the players are. So we'll throw it to break, and we'll be right back here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Can't listen to us live on YouTube? Find Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or Pocket Casts the morning after the match.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 90 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening live. If you want to join the conversation, let us know what you think in real time using the chat on YouTube Live, on Twitter using the hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 60 seconds.
Let us know what you think between games on Twitter at hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU.
We are back here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, and we're pleased to be joined live from deep inside the MLS Bubble by DC United's Claudia Pagan. Claudia, thanks so much for joining us, and how are you doing this morning?
Thank you guys for having me. I'm good. I'm hot. I am sweating buckets right now. This Orlando Heat, guys, is no joke, and I've been hearing that, this 9 a.m. game is the hardest out of the 3 times that MLS has, and I can confirm it is hot, hot, hot. You are sweating from the moment that you get off the bus. But I'm feeling really good after that last-minute draw from DC United.
Yeah, so can you take us through a little bit of what your life was like today? I mean, I'm sure it's been utter craziness with this game being rescheduled not once but twice. Early morning wake-ups 2 days in a row. We saw you a little bit earlier on the pregame show, but did you get to watch the game from the stadium? Were you watching? What's your morning been like?
Yeah, so let me just say I'm not a morning person, so waking up at 5 a.m. 2 days in a row is it's a little hectic, but definitely worth it. So I got up this morning, we had breakfast at the hotel, and then we headed out to the stadium. So I was there. So my roll down here is a little on camera and off camera. So I was able to film the entire game from the sidelines. So I was getting that view from the camera, but capturing pregame, capturing game, capturing a little postgame. Even was able to get in the locker room, get a couple shots of, especially Felipe, who you guys know is such an emotional player. Felipe, just chanting in the locker room. It is a job, but it's very exciting to have seen this team come back, especially one man down and with this heat. So that's been my day. It's been a little all over the place. We're sprinting from side to side, trying to chug as much water as you can when you have a free second. So it's been hectic for sure.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, obviously we know that we get the point, and it's great to hear that the team is really happy about it and they're really celebrating. Do you have any insight on what the atmosphere was like at halftime? Were people still gung-ho, ready to go? Did they think that they could come back and get this point? Were they a little bit distraught? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, so I stayed back. I was in the locker room pre-game and post-game. For halftime, I kind of stuck around on the field. I didn't go into the locker room with the team, so I'm not sure, what Ben and the players said. But it looks like whatever was said worked and clicked towards the end. You could definitely see that they were frustrated when they were going into the locker room at half after conceding the first goal so early. But you could see them when they were when they came back out, starting the second half, you could see a little bit more energy in them, a little bit more revival, and especially, I'm going to keep coming back to guys like Felipe and Fred and Steve, who have that energy and who bring that leadership onto the field, on and off the pitch, actually. They're getting the guys riled up. Come on, let's do this. We can keep going, keep pushing. We've got this. So they definitely had that energy coming into the second half, and clearly it worked.
Absolutely. We saw the result on the field. That draw that feels more like a win is always an amazing thing. This is a game that has been rescheduled several times. Originally supposed to happen Friday, then it was supposed to happen yesterday morning, and we finally got to have a chance to witness it this morning. How did the team deal with all of those changes? And it sounds like they had to lean a lot on those veteran leaderships to really come through and make get the point today.
They really did. So, yesterday, when Ben huddled the guys up and we were at the field to tell them the news about the game being rescheduled, you could see the visible frustration on their faces and a bit of disappointment. But that kind of died down once we got later into the day. The news settled in, and I saw Russell Knauss in the elevator this morning, and heading down to the game, he goes, it's hard to get mentally ready 2 days in a row because you get yourself so mentally prepared. So I'm putting on my mask back on. I'm about to head out of this bus. So if you hear a little rustling, that's what's going on. So Russ was saying it's a bit hard to get mentally prepared again, a second day in a row. Right after you spent an entire day and an entire morning getting ready for all of this. But they had a lot of energy. So pre-game, those leadership voices that I talked about, they were very vocal in the locker room. As I said before, they were, come on, team, let's go. We got this. We didn't have yesterday. Let's use that energy. Let's use that frustration that we had yesterday, and let's put it into today's game.
We're live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken with DC United's Claudia Pagan from deep inside the MLS Bubble at Walt Disney World. And if you've got questions for Claudia or reactions from today's game, please tweet them at us using the hashtag Tried and True DCU. Claudia, one additional question we had for you is hopefully a little bit more fun and hopefully something the team will be able to enjoy all day today since it's not even noon yet. But what have the players been able to do, kind of in their leisure time at Walt Disney World? I mean, obviously amusement parks probably off limits, but there's a lot of other activities for the players to do. What has that been like?
Yeah, you're talking about amusement parks, man. I've got a straight view to the Tower of Terror from my window, and it's it's just like teasing me right there. But there's definitely a lot to do here. The players are being safe, they're taking precautions. So every team here gets their own lounge room, and the lounge room has a gaming system so that they can play FIFA. It's got a ping pong table, and it's got some board games and stuff. So the guys do take advantage of it. They do spend some time in their rooms, obviously, relaxing, recovering, all of that stuff. But this is the first time I'm going to say it, so I'm super excited that I'm able to talk about this. Ping pong champion, let's talk about Pipa. I know he's here today. That man is good on the field, and he ping pong champion. I've got 20 straight minutes of footage of him just rolling through a couple players. I won't name the players. I won't name the players. That footage I'm going to keep hidden because I'm going to embarrass it. This player is just rolling through all of them. So they're having fun. They're enjoying their time together, and it's kind of like preseason part 2 where the guys are just able to be together, to connect, to be around each other and form that relationship. And I keep saying this, but I'm just going to keep saying it all season long, that I absolutely really love this team that we have. It's a mixture of ages, of guys from different backgrounds, different countries, different resumes and teams that they've played on. And I feel like they really click together. Like everyone's got each other's back.
They're so fun to watch, and they're so fun to talk to. We've had the great honor of having a number of them on the show, and we got to give a shout out to our friend Kevin Paredes for his MLS debut today. I missed that earlier, that it was his first MLS appearance for the Black and Red. And Claudia, is he still running the table in FIFA? Because from what we've heard and from what we've experienced firsthand, the kid's pretty good at FIFA.
Oh my God. I was in there when he was giving Moses. Was it Moses? Yeah, he was giving Moses a beating on FIFA. You got Pipa the ping pong champion. You got Kevin tearing it up for FIFA. Like, it is true. I won't tell you the score on a lot of those games. That too is also embarrassing. But that man, he's just like, yeah, I'm not even trying. I'm like, dude, you're up by like 5 or 6. You want me to try? I'm like, yeah, can you try? He's absolutely great, and Ben speaks very highly about Kevin on the field, and it was super exciting to see him there today. He had a big smile on his face after the game. Of course, when he was getting his name called by Ben on the side, he had that face on. He was getting into the game, but then afterwards it was just all smiles.
So exciting. And just what a great game today for him to even have as a debut. He came on down 2-0, getting a massive point. So it's super exciting all around.
Yes.
Claudia, any closing thoughts from your perspective, or what the rest of the team's day will look like today, having done at 9 a.m. what they're used to doing at like 8 or 9 p.m.?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have lunch soon. The guys are gonna recover in their rooms a little bit. I think they have a recovery session later today, but it's just chilling because of course it's that quick turnaround. The game is Friday versus New England, so a pretty quick turnaround. Honestly, with the heat and humidity, I'm sure it's a lot harder for them to recover. So just recovering today. I don't know if there'll be ping pong and FIFA maybe later this week, but today really just recovering. But definitely don't count this team out. That first half and beginning of the second half was a bit frustrating. And I think it was taking them, first game in 4 months, right? So you kind of got to get that rhythm back.
Yeah.
And the end of the game was just, they were piecing together. I've got great footage of just passes between all the players that I'm so excited to look at, because the game got really exciting at the end. Obviously a big energy boost from Pipa entering the game, which was his first game in a DC United uniform. So tell me how good he looks in black and red, right?
Much better than yellow.
Right. 100% agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Claudia. Hopefully you get time to take a nap this afternoon. I know up early 2 days in a row in the Florida heat's probably killing you, but we really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Thank you. I'm definitely knocking out after this, so thank you guys for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for the time.
Awesome. That's DC United's Claudia Pagan joining us here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. Let's throw to break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up, and hopefully we'll have Coach Ben Olsen's thoughts on the game live right here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Can't listen to us live on YouTube? Find Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or Pocket Casts the morning after the match.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 90 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening live. If you want to join the conversation, let us know what you think in real time using the chat on YouTube Live, on Twitter using the hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 60 seconds.
Let us know what you think between games on Twitter at #TriedAndTrueDCU or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, will be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU.
We are back here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. We were just talking about press conference as it looks like Ben Olsen is getting ready to come on here. Is that him in the seat right now?
Yeah, it looks like it, so we'll throw it over.
All right, let's do that.
Wanted to welcome you to the post-match press conference following our come from behind draw after going down 2 goals and seeing a player sent off right before halftime. As you can see, Fred's joined us. After Fred, we'll have Frederic Brillant and Ben Olsen. For the protocol to ask questions, same as usual, please raise your hand. You should see the feature on the bottom of your Zoom screen to ask a question. Once I notice your hand being risen, we'll click on that, unmute you, and tell you can speak, and you should be able to ask your question. Fred will answer those in order. We have each guy for about 10 minutes, and we'll try to get through as many questions as we can. Fred, before I open it up for questions for the group, just wanted to start with you. How do you feel after that result?
I feel good, I feel pleased because we came back, but also disappointed with my mistake. But in the end, we show a very good character, and we are all very happy with that.
Awesome. All right, we'll open up to questions. We'll start with Steve Goff from the Washington Post. Steve, you should be good to speak.
Hey, Fred. Congratulations on the comeback. Describe that last sequence where you scored the equalizer, what you and Steve had communicated maybe, and how it unfolded on the set piece.
Yeah, it's something we work on. And, with Steve, we try to go Steve one side, me other side, and we switch on time. And I think Steve is a very good guy, with the header. He's very, very strong with that. And I knew he got the ball. So you hear me?
You hear us?
Yeah.
Fred, this is Zach. It broke up a little bit. If you don't mind going back into your answer again, that'd be terrific.
You hear me right now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I said, it's something we work on, the set pieces with Steve. Steve go one side, I go to the other side, and we try to stretch the team. And like I said, Steve is a very good player with this head, very good header. So I was there for the second ball. But like I said, yeah, Stevie deserves it as well because he worked hard and he won this duel.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. Next question, we'll go to Pablo from The Athletic. Pablo, you should be good to speak.
Hey, Fred. Congrats on the comeback, and thanks for doing this. I wonder if you could talk about, obviously, you guys looked a little out of step in the first half. The heat index, at kickoff was in the mid-90s, 93, 94 degrees. Conditions obviously are what they are. It's not ideal, but I wonder if you could describe a little bit what it's been like for you as a player and what the first half was like, just sort of being forced to play in the heat and the humidity in the early start.
Yeah, everything here is not ideal. This tournament is hard. Like I said before we start this tournament, it will be only about mentality. And today was like that. we were ready yesterday. We woke up at 5:30 yesterday. After that, we didn't know when we will play the game. And in the end of the day, they say, yeah, you're gonna play the game tomorrow morning. So it's a turnover. We have to switch our mind. We have to be ready again for this game. It's very tough. To be honest, it's very tough. And we have to be flexible like we did, but like you saw, the first half was not very easy for us. We start the game with the heavy legs. We try to switch our mind, be ready for this game, but it was not easy. To be honest, it was not easy at all. But yeah, like I said, it's only about mentality and about character. And we show today we have a very good team, especially with the character. We have a very good character in this team.
Thank you, Fred. Next
You're
question,
welcome.
we'll go to Franco Panizo, Soccer Vibes. Franco, you should be good to speak right now.
Game. So
Thanks, guys. Frederic, obviously you guys, towards the end of the game, there's a lot of emotion. You guys get the result. What happened after the match, though, between the two teams? There obviously a big skirmish there, a lot of words between both sides. What happened after the game that you guys came together there?
70 minutes.
Between Toronto and us right now, because we were waiting for them 2 times, I think. Even we talk about the safety of the player. I think we deserve more respect, and we have the feeling that they didn't respect us because we were ready 2 times and didn't show 2 times. So yeah. Before we start the game, it was like, or you say in English, the tension. They have tension between them and us. And in the end, they were frustrated because we came back. So it's normal. But, we are soccer player. And after the game, when we went to the locker room, we talked a little bit. The situation was calm, and we talked a little bit with them, and it was much better. But we are human, and if something can happen, it's possible. But yeah, we deal with the situation, and it was better after the game. We talk a little bit, and everything's fine right now.
Thank you, Fred. Just a reminder, if you have a question for him, to raise your hand. I don't see any coming in. We'll pause for just 10 seconds to see if anyone else has another question. Otherwise, Fred will let you go. So just hold on for just 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to go to Jason Anderson, Black and Red United. Jason, go ahead.
Fred, my question's already answered. I guess you've scored 2 goals in 2 straight games now. Do you need to work on a celebration?
A little bit, yeah. I'm lost, but I'm so happy for the team because when I score, we need it. We came back, and because we were not in the good posture at this time. The first game against Miami, it was the win goal because it was 1-1, so it was very important for us. And this one was very important for us, but also for me because I needed for the rest of this tournament. And I was sad for the team with this mistake, and the team didn't blame me during the halftime. They pushed me, and I think it's the very good mentality. We have to keep it for the rest of this tournament. We have to be a group strong like we did today, and we will be fine, But yeah, I need to work on my celebration. You're right.
That's DC United's Frederic Brillant joining the media live here, and we're all learning a little bit about this new world we live in with Zoom press conferences and stuff. So it sounds like Ben Olsen will actually be third in line. We're going to be joined here by Pipa Higuain any second. But guys, thoughts on what Fred had to say there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I loved that last question about having a celebration. I thought that was cute. But yeah, it sounds like the team was really energized, and it just sounds like they have a really great energy after getting that 1 point, which is kind of what Claudia had said as well.
Yeah, and to hear him answer the question about some of the tension between the teams, like we've talked about, this game got delayed several times. A lot of people just chomping at the bit, ready to get out there. You saw some of those tensions boil over afterwards. Unfortunately, none of it came to blows or anything like that. But you could tell that both teams were invested and ready for this game to happen, and then to have it happen in such a dramatic fashion down the stretch. These guys clearly care about this tournament, and Fred's reaction shows no different.
Absolutely, and for me, it's so exciting to see him get a goal. I mean, we joked earlier he's leading the team in scoring right now, and our friend Jason Anderson from Black and Red asked about a potential celebration, but I think we all looked at each other a little bit with our heads down when he played a key role in giving up one of the goals, and
which
one of the things
he
we
apologized
saw.
for. Sorry to cut you off.
I know that's where I was going
with
it. Right?
It was really sweet.
He did. He absolutely owned it, and you love to see that in a competitor, right? And there was a lot coming into this tournament. Folks asking if we'd see Donovan Pines early and often, if somebody like Frederic Brillant, who's in his mid-30s, would struggle in the Florida Heat. And we heard Claudia tell us, before we went to the press conference, that this is just insanely hot right now. And so for a guy like Fred to rebound from a tough play early on in the game, right? He's a veteran. You expect that, but he played the full 90 and delivered the equalizer at the end, and you love to see it.
Yeah, I think it was interesting, just touching back on something he said about the tension between the two teams, because I don't think that's something you think about when you think about DC United Toronto. I don't think I think of that as a rivalry, but I mean, obviously there's a little bit of bad blood coming out off of last year, and I guess that definitely continued into this game. What did you all make of that comment?
Yeah, like I said, these are teams that are competitors. I don't know of any personal animus between the folks, but these guys came to play. And then, especially when you have situations like we talked about, lots of hard tackles coming from a couple of guys, that amps up the level of tension in the game. Frankly, I understand if Bradley is upset that Felipe didn't get sent off. We thought he might have been able to, and it turned out to work in DC United's favor. That's the way the game goes, and I'm also, like I said, glad to see that they didn't go any further than just sharing words afterwards. But it's again very clear these guys care about this game. They're here to compete. And that's kind of what we expected.
Well, and I think from my perspective, on the Toronto side, you do have to wonder if some of that was a little bit of just the general frustration about everything they've been through in the past week. I mean, they've had false starts trying to get down to Orlando. I don't think a lot of their players really wanted to do this to begin with. They get there yesterday morning. They had the game scheduled, called off at the last second. They didn't even get on the bus, which is something we didn't even really have a chance to talk about on the show today, which I expected to spend a lot more time on until we had the last 10 minutes of that game. But I think a lot of the emotion, at least in my mind, coming from Toronto is largely due to just everything that they've been through in the last week. I mean, DC United, as the broadcaster team today from ESPN pointed out, they've been in Orlando for almost 2 weeks now, right? Yeah. And so they're settling in, and that was kind of frustrating to hear in the first half to me, of these guys should be fully adapted to this environment. They're not playing terribly well, but you do wonder if part of that with Toronto is just they're a little angsty right now with everything that's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between being adapted to an environment, but it's still going to be hard, right? I don't think anyone is ever going to be really thrilled about playing in 90 plus degree heat consistently. But yeah, I mean, Vanny was very public about not even wanting to come down to the tournament, and I don't know that I really considered what that would have been like on the Toronto side. So you're right. I think all that frustration just kind of coming out on the field and kind of coming at DC United as the first game.
Well, and I think that also gives even more props to DC United for the way they responded those last 10 minutes after having played in that heat for 80 plus minutes, plus warms up, plus all the other things going on, and to have the mentality to come in and get the job done. Those goals were not outrunning goals. They were not out fitness goals. They were mindset. They were saying, hey, this is an opportunity. I need to take advantage of it. And they made it happen. So I've got to give credit to them for being up for it, pushing through the pain. It's hot down there, and they made it happen.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got DC United head coach Ben Olsen ready to take the podium, so we'll flip back over there.
Yeah, I would I'd say certainly in the first half they were a much better team. Certainly with the ball, we were passive defensively. We were
a little bit too comfortable in our shape, and we weren't able to make them uncomfortable enough. And it's a very good team where if they have time and space, they're going to get good looks. Saying that, the goals are very soft. They didn't have that many great chances. We had plenty of numbers around the ball in the first for the first goal, and then the second one we gift them. So we find ourselves in a 2-0 hole. I thought we actually were playing ourselves into the game. It was maybe a little nerves from the get-go from our group, and again, as I said, we were passive. So the red card changes things for us. We regroup at halftime, and then I thought as we made some subs. Let me start the second half. I thought our shape down a man was very good, and we didn't want to get overextended. We wanted to pick and choose our spots to get back in the game, but not open up too much. I thought the team did a very good job with that, and worked their tails off. And the subs gave us a real energy, and really helped the game out. And again, not conceding space, but also getting pressure on them. And the goal was well taken for Pipa. Very, very pleased for him. He's a guy that's been out for a year. So happy for a guy like that when he comes back and helps contribute to the draw. And we've always been dangerous on set pieces, and that's going to continue to be a staple for our group if we're going to have success. And then overall, just a general, gutsy performance, and from what I think is a mentally tough group. It has not been an easy 10 days, 11 days since we got here. A lot of moving parts, a lot of cancellations and games being moved. So to get something out of that game, I think says a lot about our group. Yes, we can get better, but this is a marathon, and the trick in these tournaments is to keep pushing and getting better throughout the tournament.
Terrific. Thanks, Ben. Reminder for the group to raise your hand if you have a question for him, and we will try to get to as many as we can for the 10 to 15 minutes that we have, Ben. We'll start with the first question. Steve Goff, Washington Post. Go right ahead.
Hey, Ben, what impact did you want to see from those substitutes, particularly, the young guys like Paredes and Dewey Atsum? What do you think? How do you think they influenced the match, which otherwise was not going your way?
Yeah, well, I didn't think I know your tone. I just read your article. Your tone of the first half was, I think it's fair. It wasn't the greatest half, but I still think that it wasn't. We were playing ourselves into that match, and the subs, what they brought to answer your question, is they had possessions in them, whether it was Yamil. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'll take them one by one. Yamil brought possessions and a little bit of savvy, and whether it's connecting the game and some much needed possessions. He also got fouled a few times. That's important when you're in those situations. His timing and change of pace defensively on making their back line uncomfortable, I thought really helped us. And Kevin Paredes did the same. He had a really good feel out there for when to hold space, but also not being so passive and getting after them and making them uncomfortable. So both of those wide guys did a great job of that. Pipa's really understands the game on both sides. He doesn't get enough credit for his shape defensively, and I thought he came in and did a good job. Obviously takes the goal very well. Chris Adoy, he gives you juice, and he's electric, and he's a damn good defender. So I thought the entire group did a good job of, again, being compact to make sure you're not conceding anything, but also being less passive than the first half, and that was my problem in the first half. There just wasn't enough change of pace on the defensive side to make them uncomfortable.
Thanks, Ben. Next question will go to Pablo. Pablo, go right ahead.
Hey, Ben. There was a bit of a dust up there at the end, and I was just on TFC's call, and Michael Bradley was pretty blunt, said that it was obvious you guys may have felt a certain type of way about them potentially arriving late or not at all yesterday. I'm curious if you thought, if you think any of that put any extra juice in this game, and if you have any other thoughts as far as the way yesterday's sort of no-show may have affected today's performance.
It's no secret that our boys were a little bit pissed off about how this has all played out to get to this point. But a lot of it's out of their control and out of our control. And we're kind of in this hotel together, and we're eating next to them, and we see each other 10 times a day for the last 6-7 days. And we play a game. We're at this resort. We've been locked. We've been not let out of our rooms for a day and a half because we had a COVID case. So listen, emotions are high, and it wasn't surprising that there was a dust up. It didn't surprise me that it was a physical game and there was a red card. I think it was always going to shake out that way. Both sides, talking at each other, and again, that's okay. I think it's done, and it'll blow over, and now we can kind of focus on another team, which is nice. We've been essentially focused on Toronto for 2 full weeks, so it'd be nice to kind of transfer our energy on now New England and trying to get a win or the right result going forward. But listen, I am extremely proud of the way our team dug in and found a point. And it has not been an easy road for them over the last 10 days here. Again, with all the twists and turns, for these guys to stay mentally tough during that time, and then to not fold when it was 2-0 and you're down a man in that heat. It shows, I think, the grit and the mentality of our team. Now we got to get better. We have to grow and get the soccer part better and find out who our best 11 is. That's on me, and that's on our players to play at the level they can. And I don't think, from a soccer standpoint, we did that today. But when it comes to our mentality, that can't be questioned right now.
Thank you, Ben. Next question will come from Jason Anderson, Black and Red United. Jason, go ahead.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for taking the time. You mentioned a little bit about what Kevin Paredes brought to the game. What has he been showing up until this point in training to earn minutes in this kind of difficult circumstance?
He's been showing us exactly what he showed today. He showed a willingness to run off the ball, a grittiness, a fight, a little bit of fire in his belly. He's got 2 older brothers, and he's certainly a competitor. His understanding, his feel for the game defensively is very good. I thought the spots he picked up, again, still protecting space and understanding we're down a man and that you got to do a lot of work, but also making them uncomfortable, their backs. That's a hard thing to do and it takes feel, and you can't teach that feel. He has it. He understands, again, both sides of the ball. He's relentless. He's fearless, and I think he's going to be a serious player for this team in the years to come.
Thank you, Ben. Friendly reminder to raise your hand if you have a question for him. I see one more in the room right now. We'll go to you, Alonso Contreras, Pulso Sports Network. You should be free to speak right now if you unmute yourself.
Hi, Coach. Welcome back with 10 men. My name is Alonso from Area Sport Network. How will you evaluate Edison Flores' performance?
Okay. Wasn't spectacular by any means, but I don't think in the first half we had anybody that was exceptional. But you can't also be exceptional by yourself. And we as a group have to make players better and make sure he's opportunities. He's still learning. He's still learning this league, and he's still learning the pace of it, and he's still learning his teammates. And that's a bunch of our guys. But that crew in the first half has to get better. Again, it was passive, too many turnovers, a little anxious at times. When we did get into the attack, it was one ball to try to finish them off rather than making the game a little bit more and making them work and chewing their legs off. So, across the board, I think we could have been better, especially on the offensive end.
Great. We have time for one more question. We'll go to Franco Panizo, Soccer by Ives. Franco, you should be free to speak.
Thanks, man. Ben, just two quick ones for you. I had some trouble here earlier, so I'm sure you touched on Higuain, but if not, just wanted to ask you the impact he made off the bench. Is this the type of role you see for him going forward? And the second one, Michael Bradley during his call a few minutes ago said that the reason for the coming together, at least from Toronto's end, was a perception that you guys think they were maybe showing gamesmanship with the delay in the game by a day or coming in late to the bubble. Is that how you guys on DCC felt about what has transpired over the last 24, 36 hours?
Yeah, I got your two questions. As far as the Michael stuff, I kind of already answered it, so I don't want to kind of rehash it. But it is we're all going through this pandemic here and at a resort together, and there's a lot of emotion going on right now, and some of it's warranted, some of it's just because of the situation we're in. Again, our players have been in their rooms for a day and a half because we can't go outside. So there's, it's a different time, and it's a different emotion, and everybody goes about these games differently, and so I think it'll be squashed. We're happy we got something out of this game, and I think it was emotional for them to not get 3 points when a team was down a man. And I credit our guys to come back and get something out of it. As far as Pipa, it was a special moment for me and the team. Even though we've only been around him for, a short amount of time, he is a big part of our team already. He's an older player that's been around, and the guys have a lot of respect for him. He's he's been a great teammate. He's been a great guy for me to have chats with on the side about our team and whether it's tactics and his thoughts on the game, because he's a very bright guy. And for him to come in and have that type of impact on our team it's a lot of fun as a coach to see. And I know he's happy and his family's happy that he's back after a long road with the injury. What his role is with us, that's obviously what you saw today, one role. But he's the type of talent, as he gets fitter and more ingrained in this group, he might be a guy that now is hard to take off the field. And he has that ability, his tempo, the way he can pull the strings is a important thing, and something as you see today, we need it. We're still not connecting passes in the right way. We still are lacking a little bit of feel in how we build, and part of that's we're still a new team trying to figure out how we're going to go about the attacking side. Part of it just, to me, it was just quality and individuals that was lacking at times. But he's a guy that can give us that. So we're looking forward to having him, and I'm glad he got his goal today. We'll see what minutes he can handle throughout this tournament.
That's DC United head coach Ben Olsen, and he talked a bit there about the role that Pipa Higuain has with this team. We've mentioned several times today what Pipa thinks his role on the team is, and just so excited to hear what Benny had to say there, guys. What were your takeaways?
I just love Ben so much. I love that he's very real when he talks about the first half, and that's not what we needed, and we weren't stringing the passes together.
I think he said no one was exceptional in that
first half. Exactly. So I just love how real he is, because we saw it. Everyone was watching the same game in which that was happening. So I do love how real he is. And then you also kind of made a comment that we're like a Paredes Stan account right now, because I did just love hearing him. That was a great question, and I did love hearing him just talk about what he's bringing to practice, and how he could actually bring something to the team in this game. It wasn't necessarily just about like throwing him on to get minutes because it looks like a hopeless situation, and that's what you do with the young kids. But he really thought that Paredes could bring something to this game, and I mean, we saw that he did. So it was great to hear that from Ben himself.
No, you're absolutely right. That was one of the questions we asked earlier was, hey, Ben used 5 subs more than he's ever used before. Situation aside, he clearly had something he was looking for from each of those players. He talked about bringing on Assad to get in more touches. Obviously, Pipa would come in with leadership and get that goal. There was clearly a mindset on, okay, this is how I'm going to tweak things. Sometimes people will criticize Ben for not making enough in-game changes or adjusting tactically. He made the changes today, and it came off, and we got the tie. And if you had told me in the 44th minute that we were going to end this game with a tie, I'd be overjoyed, and I'm overjoyed now.
And you would have said, stop it with that nonsense. There's no way.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that Ben was asked twice about there, I saw it just before we went to his press conference, so I had a feeling it would come up, and it was Pablo Maurer that asked the question, also from The Athletic. But Michael Bradley's specific quote, he was acknowledging that DC United feel that Toronto FCs are cheating the system by showing up to the previous game late, and some of the things that happened yesterday. Bradley said that, quote, that couldn't obviously be further from the truth, and added that prudence and caution have to come first right now. We talked about it in our second segment today, what all of that could have meant for Toronto and how that could have played in. But Coach Olsen didn't back down from it at all. He openly admitted that emotions are running high and some guys are a little pissed off right now. And what do you guys make of that?
I was very vocal yesterday. I did think it was interesting that Toronto didn't show up to the game. I have a hard time imagining that Toronto had any information that DC United didn't. All of that saying, obviously, like, the health of the players comes first, and like if not playing yesterday was the right call, and if this game had to be rescheduled further on, obviously, that is the most important thing. Thankfully, both of those positive tests have come back negative since, so that is really good to hear. But again, I just think it's interesting that Toronto would have been told that the game's not being played, y'all can stay home, and DC was at the field warming up. I understand why the players would be frustrated, but from what I saw, though, it kind of looked like Toronto was coming at the DC United players. It didn't really look like the DC United players were trying to start anything. They were happy with their point and walking away. So it's interesting to me that Toronto and Michael Bradley kind of had that opinion. I'm sure it was fueled by the fact that they had just dropped 3 points, but that says a lot to me.
Yeah, I think, again, we're here in DC. We're not on the ground in Orlando. We don't know the ins and outs of who knew what when and what's going on. All we can do is speculate from the outside. But for us, we see that they've got a protocol in place. You see a team that showed up ready to play a game.
Follow the protocol.
It was ready to go, and it's part of the nature of this tournament is you're going to have to be ready to adjust on things that happen. We've had teams that have left the tournament. We've had games get rescheduled. We've had games move around for something as comparatively simple as weather. So there are all sorts of things that come in when you're trying to play a lot of games in a short period of time. Today, DC United adjusted. They did what they needed to do. They got a point, and that's really the final word on it.
Yeah, and speaking of the protocol, our protocol here on Tried and True is to hand out a man of the match, which we haven't done in about 3 months, and it was going to be an interesting choice for a long time. I think it still is. Sam, I'll put you on the spot. Who do you got?
Well, first, I think it's like worth mentioning that DC United and ESPN both gave it to Brillant, which like shouts to him. As we mentioned, he did admit to his mistake in his post-game press conference, and he did come back with that amazing equalizing header. I think though, I think the turning point happened when Higuain came on, and I think that the energy he brought to the game, the leadership he brought, we don't hear all the conversations he probably had, but it looked like the play was uplifted a little bit. And then again, just his calm, cool, collected, amazing goal. That's who I would give it to. I'd probably shout Paredes second, because he also had, a pretty good first ever game. He brought a really good energy, but Higuain's my man.
Michael Black.
Yeah, I agree with it. I can't find fault in giving Pipa the man of the match. He, came on, got a goal within 2 or 3 minutes of being on the field. That's always challenging as you're trying to settle in. Like I said, he had 15 minutes to make an impact, and well, boy did he. So, yeah, and you don't get this 1-1 or this 2-2 result without Pipa getting that goal and early enough to get a second one going. The mentality he brought, he was, on fire, ready to go.
Yeah, and I think for me, I've got to agree with you guys. I'm going to go with Pipa Higuain as well as the man of the match. It looked like we were going to be joined here on the press conference by Pipa Higuain, but he has disappeared from the view. So we'll.
Here he is.
And he's live.
United back home. How are you? Can you hear me?
Hi, how are you? Good.
Awesome.
Yes, I do.
Great. Pipa, we will take some questions from the media. We'll start with Stephen Goff,
Okay.
Washington Post. Steve, go ahead.
Pippa, when you came into the game, what made you believe there was still hope for your team?
The game of football. Football always give you the opportunity to score a goal. Even it can be as happened in the first goal or in the second goal, as set pieces. That is what happened normally in football. Fortunately, it happened today with us.
Thank you, Pipa. Next question, Pablo from The Athletic. Pablo, go ahead.
Pipa, thanks for taking the time to do this. I wonder if you can describe for me a little bit what your experience has been like over the past couple of months, coming to a new club, obviously commuting, your commute has been crazy. You've been rehabbing from an injury. Obviously now you're taking part in this tournament, which is sort of unprecedented in MLS history. How have the past months been for you? How have you been adjusting?
Of course, this is a difficult moment for everybody, But overall, all is good. The staff coach, the medical staff, my teammates, they welcome me very well. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Pipa. Next question, Jason Anderson, Black and Red United. Jason, go right ahead.
Hi, Pipa. Thanks for taking the time. You've seen a lot in your career. Have you seen anything quite like the circumstances of this, the postponements, and then coming back while down 10 in the humidity? Do you have anything like that you can remember?
And I don't know. But again, I'm happy. I'm happy to be back on the field. It was a long wait for me, plus the COVID. So, like I said before, a very difficult moment for everybody. But I'm back on the field, and I know this is the first step of my recovery. I got to keep working, and I will do it because I want to play as long as possible, because this is the game what I love.
Thanks, Pipa. Next question, Jose Umana, the Sports Pulse and WTOP. Jose, go ahead.
Hi, Pipa. Quick question. During that goal play, what did you see out of the goalkeeper that allowed you to come up with that shot? And how good does it feel to have scored that goal in such a moment in your first match of this year?
I think it was a great tackle by Russell, amazing ball by Felipe. He put me in a very good situation. And at the moment I faced the goalkeeper, I knew the distance between him and I will give me the opportunity to chip it. So I'm confident of my game. My teammates trust on me, and that's why I tried that shot. It was a good goal. It was a good goal that helped us to believe that we can tie the game.
Thank you, Pipa. Next question, Franco Panizo. Franco, go ahead.
Thanks. Can I ask in Spanish? Is that okay?
Sorry.
Yes, translation.
No, te estaba preguntando si te lo podía preguntar en español. Obviamente te metes un golazo a minutos de entrar al partido y sabemos que obviamente eso ayuda al equipo en lo anímico. ¿Cuánto ayudó al equipo hasta con 10 jugadores creer que se podía sacar el resultado?
Yo creo que fue importante, sobre todo porque hoy jugamos contra, en mi opinión, uno de los mejores equipos de la liga, en unas condiciones climáticas difíciles, con un jugador menos. Y claro que es importante porque te da ese envión anímico para poder pelear el partido, sabiendo que el fútbol siempre te da una oportunidad más. Afortunadamente tuvimos esa última oportunidad y Fred pudo convertir en una pelota parada, pudimos convertir y empatar el partido, que fue difícil para nosotros.
Great, thank you. We have enough time for a couple more questions. We'll go to Alonso Contreras. Alonso, go ahead.
Hola Pipa, ¿qué tal?
Buenas.
Alonso de Aries por Network. Mira, hablabas sobre el fútbol, y eso es lo lindo del fútbol, ¿no? El que no siempre tiene la posesión del balón es el que va a ganar, sino el que concreta sus oportunidades. ¿Crees que ese fue el motor de que DC United siga atacando, buscando el empate? Y, obvio, ¿en qué momento tú decidiste aquí le hago el gol de sombrerito?
Creo que todos los equipos, después de convertir un gol, tienen esos minutos en los cuales creen que pueden convertir el segundo gol. A nosotros nos pasó, siento que nos pasó eso hoy, que anímicamente nos dio esa fuerza para ir a buscar con lo último que teníamos, en un partido muy difícil con un jugador menos, ese empate que por suerte se nos dio, ¿no? Fue un partido muy difícil para mis compañeros, por el clima, por el jugador menos, y la verdad que la forma en que ellos pelearon fue muy lindo de ver. Y después, bueno, como dije antes, había varias maneras de definir, pero creo que la manera en que pude convertir el gol, sentía que tenía la posibilidad de hacer eso y por suerte entró. Así que muy feliz.
Great, thank you. Next question will come from John Rojas. John, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to ask in Spanish too. Pipa, qué bueno verte de nuevo disfrutando y gracias por el tiempo.
Gracias.
Cuando miras atrás, cuando miras todas las dificultades, la lesión y obviamente todas las circunstancias que están pasando hoy, ves que juegas tus primeros minutos de vuelta y conviertes, ¿qué es lo primero que se te viene a la cabeza?
Nada, todo el trabajo en los momentos difíciles, mi familia, mi mujer, mis hijos, mis padres en Argentina, mis hermanos, la incertidumbre de no saber cómo uno va a salir de esta situación. Y bueno, afortunadamente se me cruzó en el camino un club como DC United que me dio la posibilidad, tanto como su dirigencia, su cuerpo técnico, mis compañeros han confiado en mí, me han dado la posibilidad. Y bueno, es lo que uno ama, lo que uno hizo toda la vida y lo que uno quiere seguir haciendo. La verdad que mis sensaciones son las mismas que tenía antes de debutar oficialmente como profesional. Esa sensación de intentar volver a poder hacerlo, esa sensación de jugar en primera división. Y nada, tengo que seguir trabajando, pero soy muy agradecido. En principio a mi mujer, a mis hijos, a mi familia en Argentina, a mis amigos y a DC United que me da esta posibilidad, desde su dueño hasta mis compañeros que me han recibido de la mejor forma.
Great. One last question. We'll go to Renee Vidal. Renee, go ahead.
¿Cómo estás, Pipa? Un saludo acá desde Seattle. Un golazo, el que debe estar en la Juventus eres tú, creo. Mira, mi pregunta es bien sencilla. ¿Cómo vistes a Edison Flores, su performance en los primeros 45 minutos del partido?
La verdad que es un partido difícil, no era un partido fácil. Edison seguramente necesitará su tiempo para conocer la liga, pero hoy enfrentamos a un buen equipo de fútbol. Nosotros lo sabíamos antes de jugar, un equipo que viene jugando hace tiempo junto, que tiene una idea de juego, y no iba a ser un encuentro fácil. Además por las situaciones climáticas, hace mucho calor, muchísimo calor, y bueno, después con un hombre menos también se hace un poco más difícil, pero creo que en líneas generales sabemos que podemos mejorar y vamos a buscar mejorarlo lo antes posible.
Thank you, Pipa.
That's DC United's Pipa Higuain, whose goal sparked the comeback, which resulted in a 2-2 draw in DC United's first Group C match here in the MLS's back tournament. We're winding things down on the show here. It was great to hear Pipa talk about the great ball that was from Felipe, and of course we talked earlier about how Felipe was probably fortunate to still have been on the field to deliver that ball, but things worked themselves out, and it's a 2-2 draw for the Black and Red in their Group C opener. So we've awarded men of the match. We've now got to look forward to the next game, which, as is tradition, has been rescheduled, but really to our benefit here, Friday night on ESPN proper against the New England Revolution, who are coming off of a 1-0 victory over the Impact. So as all games in these group stages are, a critical one for the Black and Red, but 3 points on Friday would really cement them in a great spot to go through.
Yeah, and we do have a fan question here from Josh on YouTube. He asked a little bit ago, with Moreno being out for the next game, do you think we're going to see Knaus move to his natural D-mid position and potentially Fisher or Odietsa moving to right back? What do you all think about that?
No, I think that's almost exactly what you'll expect. Fortunately, of the positions we've got on this team, I'd say winger and D-mid is where you could manage to fill in as you need to.
And fortunately, we didn't lose two defensive midfielders today, as we very well could have.
MLS has a history of going back and suspending players, so I think that we're potentially not out of the woods yet. I just do want to throw out there.
Yeah, I don't know how often you see extended suspensions for multiple yellows, because none of those tackles was to the point that I think they would go back and award a red directly for that. But again, this is MLS. They can pretty much do whatever they want to.
MLS is back, so.
Yeah, I would expect to see Knaus move to the middle. I would expect to see probably Fisher in at the right, and they'll go from there.
I think they'll both get minutes. I think both Adriasen, who played today, and Fisher, who got in as well. I expect them to both get some minutes there.
I think that Fisher definitely provides more of an attacking option. Prior to his injury, he really went down the flank for us. You frequently saw him at the opposing team's touchline. So I think he does bring that. If we are gonna try to go more defensive against New England, you could almost make the argument that you start Odietsa and then Fisher comes on halfway through. I mean, we've talked about, you saw the energy that Higuain was able to bring being brought on as a late sub, so potentially Fisher does bring that for us. We'll see.
Like you said, dealing with the conditions today, we didn't have any players go down with injuries that we saw. It's going to be a tight timeline to turn around for New England on Friday. I, for one, would love to see us beat a Bruce Arena team, particularly after some of his comments visiting Audi Field last year. I'd love to show him that DC United's tradition is alive and well, and see us bring home those 3 points and really set up a great position for the last group game.
Yeah, and having watched that game, New England was the better team of New England Montreal, but I don't think that they had a performance on the field that makes me think that DC United can't come and be a real competitor against them.
Yeah, and just to wrap things up, around the DMV, we've actually got our other partner teams in action here. Loudoun United Monday, they're away to Hartford in their first game back. That's Monday, July 20th, so a week from today. and of course the Washington Spirit we've been tracking through the NWSL Challenge Cup. Sam reminds me weekly when I almost forget, and I apologize, Spirit fans. That's not intentional. But they're currently sitting second in that table, which is awesome. The goal differential is not great, but we should be seeing in the coming days what the bracket will look like for the knockout stage there.
Yeah, I believe there are just a couple games to wrap up. But yeah, we should be seeing that soon. News literally broke live that Andy Sullivan is out. She tore her meniscus, so we'll probably be seeing some changes for the Spirit. And they've definitely been a lot of fun to watch. They're another team in the district. They have a lot of really young players that last season they couldn't really bring together. They just needed to get some experience, get to know each other a little bit. But you're starting to see them a little bit in the NWSL tournament, so it'll be fun to see them continue.
And we will continue this show on Friday night after DC United take on the New England Revolution. That game kicks off sometime after 8 p.m. Who knows exactly? Probably 8:26 or something. And you'll see us around 10 minutes or so after the final whistle to do this again. This has been so much fun and so different than what we've done for the past several months, guys. It's so great to be back. And a couple shout outs I want to give here before we wrap up. Joshua Morgan, who obviously couldn't be here today, has put in a ton of work over the past couple weeks for our slick new audio visual work here. Everything
cool
looks
graphics.
great. And we also really appreciate the access from the team to be able to air the press conferences live today. We hope that's something that you all appreciate and have enjoyed. Please let us know your thoughts on how that went. And on a personal note, happy birthday to Abby, my girlfriend, who has put up with several DC United events on her birthday, including the Audi Field opener 2 years ago. And of course this game getting moved today. So happy birthday, Abs. Any final comments, guys, before we call it a wrap?
Happy birthday, Abby. I'm just still stoked. I think I'm going to be riding this high throughout the week that we were able to get that point, and I'm really excited for Friday to see how that continues.
I have never been more excited for a draw, and hopefully this is just a sign of more things to come.
MLS is back. Thanks for joining us today on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, and we will talk to you guys on Friday night.